On today's show, I am joined by my good friend Ben Pfeifer to dive back into the NBA draft with just a few days until the picks come flying off the board. We'll get into the Hawks, where they stand right now in this class, how the class looks, and much more. All is coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2001 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Friday evening here in mid to late June. And I want to encourage you at the top of the show, as I always do, to make Locked On Hawks your first listen each and every day. Check us out and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you find your podcasts each day. That includes Apple and Spotify. It also includes Overcast. We're also on YouTube on the video side, so be sure to tell your friends and family about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, review, and I appreciate you being here as always. If you missed it, episode 2000 is now live. I was joined by Kevin Chenard of Hawks.com and ATL 29 to discuss the state of the Hawks here in mid-June in advance of the draft. It was a fun conversation with Kevin to kind of commemorate the big, round, shiny number of episodes on this podcast. Prior to that, it was Jonathan Wasserman of Bleacher Report. It was Brian Schroeder. It was Glenn Willis. It's been very, very busy on the show, and it's no different today. Actually, going to be a two-part episode with myself and Ben Pfeifer, who's been on the show many times talking about the NBA draft. Ben is one of the brightest minds and scouting evaluators of the draft, really anywhere, honestly. It's a fun conversation, as always. Again, it is two parts. This is part one that you're about to listen to right now, and part two will be available in the same podcast feed as soon as part one is over. Before we get to Ben, I do want to also say that the Hawks have a pretty intriguing announcement that was not a huge news thing, but Ante Saleh, the Hawks general manager, will be speaking to the media, which is scheduled to on Monday afternoon. That'll be the first time that anyone from the front office has spoken on the record to the media since the Landry Fields firing, which is 2 months ago now, and also the first time that Ante's spoken on the record to the media since he was hired back in 2024. So it's been a while. That'll be intriguing, kind of a standard pre-draft availability, but obviously a little bit of a wrinkle in that Ante has never talked before to the media in this setting. Also, as I mentioned briefly with Kevin on the show on Wednesday, the Hawks did finally announce the hires of Bryson Graham and Pierre Dinwiddie to the front office. That was covered on the show about 2 weeks ago, but that was now official. Ante put out a statement as part of that as the general manager, which definitely points, in my opinion, to the fact that he is definitely in charge. And as I've said now numerous times, I expect the Hawks to keep it that way. They have not closed the door on a hire above Ante, but right now I'm planning as if Ante is going to be the number one guy heading into the offseason, the draft, free agency, and the season itself. But hold on your hats, and we'll get into all of that next week. But in the meantime, it's now time to talk to Ben Pfeifer about the NBA draft. And again, part two is available in the same podcast feed when part one is over. Here we go now with myself and Ben. I am joined now by a repeat guest, a multi-time annual repeat guest, probably like twice a year, honestly. Ben Pfeifer's here. Hello, sir. How are you?
How's it going, Brad? I'm doing well, even though it's not going the way that I hope. The Pacers are in the finals, and that enough is to lift my perpetually lift the floor of my mood. I feel like the first time we did this was 2019. That
sounds right to me. Something like that.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Anyways, I'm excited to talk 2025 draft right now. 2 first-round picks. We talked about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, 13 and 22. And just as a timestamp about your NBA finals, Ben is a Pacers fan. This might not go up until after Game 6, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Just know that we're recording it before Game 6 happens. But yeah, this is an interesting class. I've, as you might imagine, talked to a lot of people about this class on the podcast, trying to cast a wide net, a lot of varying opinions, and it's a class for that. I think it is anyway. I'll ask the standard, what do you make of the class question, because it feels like, especially in the Hawks range, there's a lot of uncertainty. As we're recording this, an hour ago, word broke to Ace Bailey is not going to work out for the Sixers. There's drama in that 3 to 6 range. The Hawks are in the 13. The Hawks are not till later, but what do you think about the range Atlanta's in? Late lottery, mid first?
I think it's a fantastic year to be picking 13th, to be perfectly honest. I don't think it's the best year in the world to be picking 5th necessarily.
Yep, I agree.
But I think it's a great year to be picking. We'll see. If I were the GM of every team, I'd be happy to pick 5th because a GM's probably not taking Derrick Queen in top 5. But anyways, it's still a really deep class. Maybe not, I think there's maybe like 5 or 6 guys who I think are like real star bets, and then a couple other that have shakier upside projections. But just a lot of players I'm confident in having some kind of role, or at least like value enough as an upside swing. But just like looking at the rookie scale consensus board, which we'll reference, I'm sure, a ton, like there are players who I really like and I value well above consensus at those spots. And I think are just good players relative to your average 13th pick. So I think it's a very good draft. Like, again, I think obviously Cooper, the presence of a Cooper-like draft, like 2019 is an awesome class because it's Zion, even though it wasn't like incredibly special after that. And I think Cooper, and I feel that way about Harper as well to a lesser extent. And it's a great class. It's not like a special all-timer, but like it's
sure
just like compared to last year, it's so night and day.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And 13's really interesting to talk about because number one, you don't know who's going to be there. That seems obvious, but it's also, I think, even more true this year. Like, I feel like I'm prepared for the inevitable.
There's just more options.
Yeah, someone's going to slide. I didn't plan to do this, but because you and I discussed this a little bit online, I haven't really talked about the Locked On mock draft I did, and other than just I tweeted about it, but. And look, I'm not
saying about Ace.
Well, that too, but this is not it's not going to happen this way. Just a PSA. I would be surprised if this happened, but if people miss this, I of course act as the Hawks in the Locked On mock draft. I end up with Derrick Queen at 13, and people were like, "Wait, Derrick Queen at 13?" Yes, and then I got Collin Murray-Boyles at 22. Again, not probably likely to happen, but you and I were talking. Inevitably, I was thinking, man, I kind of nailed this. Not that I think it's like perfect fits. I get all that. I get it.
I mean, it's like in any of these exercises, if you get to like top, guys who people have in like their top 5, it's gonna be.
Well, it's funny because I have them both in my top 10. I don't know if you want to spoil your board. It's the reason why I'm bringing it up now.
I do as well.
You mentioned Derrick Queen already, so. I think Derrick Queen could fall to 13 realistically. That's a possible outcome. Is it likely to happen? Maybe not. But because I took him, because I know you have him quite high on your board, let's just start there as far as players are concerned. Because look, I don't think maybe we'll come back to Ace Bailey in a second because I guess maybe there's like a fall potential there. But like Con Kneppel's not going to make it to the Hawks. Trey Johnson's not going to make it to the Hawks. I wouldn't think Fears would be a Hawks guy. Obviously Dylan and Cooper. So there's 5 or 6 guys I think are like no chance to fall to 13. I think Maluach, from what I can glean, is not going to be a fall to 13 guy. The Hawks could trade up to get him, but maybe Queen's like the highest rated guy that might be able to get there. And I know you like him, so let's start there. What do you think about Derrick Queen? And also Derrick Queen with the Hawks, which is a different thing than just Derrick Queen, I think.
Yeah, I love Derrick Queen, and it's not like the cleanest fit with the Hawks because I don't think he's what you want defensively. Like, like the whole thing is we've been trying to get the Hawks like a real 7-footer who can protect the rim. That's not aging Clint Capella since Clint Capella wasn't aging, and Queen is just not that. I think he'd be an incredible offensive fit with Trey. I think that would be just phenomenal. His ability to obviously pass and screen and rebound, but I think he'd give the Hawks a secondary like advantage creator and scoring option that they just like simply have not had since Trae Young was in the NBA. Like they just have not had a player as assuming Queen reaches his potential, which is far from a given. But
of course,
they haven't had a player as maybe Gallo like back in his best years, like
legend.
Which Queen has some of the footworky, crafty stuff, but it's also just like the freakiest change of direction guy. He's so quick for his size. His handle's incredible. He can score efficiently at the basket. Like he's just a really, really good player. And I think there's enough ways he can work on defense. Just, he does have quick feet. He has quick hands. The motor is a problem. Absolutely. But yeah, he just like gets to the rim at a crazy clip, finishes there at a crazy clip. And I trust him enough. He's like a really nice mid-range shot maker. Like he's just a really good player.
It also gets into like maybe one of those big picture conversations that we can kind of have for a second about like best player available, because I don't think Queen's a great fit in Atlanta. Like I wouldn't want to trade up for him if I was the Hawks, for example. But when you have a guy that is like and you're, for me, a top 8 guy in my board, not as high as you, but I have him in my top 8, maybe 9, something like that. And that guy falls to you at 13. How much do you care about fit is like a real question. Like, what's the dividing line? Is it just pure tiers? Like, how do you even big picture, but also apply it to the Hawks? Like, how do you think about something like that? Whereas, like, okay, not a great fit, maybe, but a guy that we think is the best player available.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on how closely you feel the guys who fit better are to Queen. Like,
Yep.
do I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is a better fit for the Hawks than Derek Queen? Absolutely. I love him for them at 22. I've done that a bunch in my mocks, but like, I would never take him over Derek Queen for any team at 13 because I think one is a high-end star bet and the other is a role player. They're just totally different tiers. But like, if Maluach was there, like, I would definitely consider taking Maluach over Queen, even though I prefer Queen and might have him like a half tier up. But like, Maluach is still the level of prospect where it's like I still feel really good coming away with him in the lottery, right? So that's really what it is. Like, it's less to me when I'm thinking about team fit. It's less to me about like roster fit and more about like timeline and ecosystem and environment. Just because like specific roster needs change so much across 2 to 3 years in the NBA. But like if you're a team like Atlanta who's trying to make the playoffs, you'll probably want to take someone who can at least give you something immediately, but also I think has the kind of ceiling that they need, which is a real star ceiling. And that's why I think, Queen and Maluach would both be freaking awesome. But
it makes sense completely. And I wanted to at least start there, knowing you had Queen high, knowing that I had drafted him in that mock. It's just an interesting way to jump off into this entire thing. And it was kind of funny because I actually almost took Murray-Boyles at 13. I was deciding between Murray-Boyles and Queen. That was my decision. Yeah. And I ended up getting Murray-Boyles 9 picks later.
You made the right call.
It's not like expected to happen. This was brought to you by CarGurus, and shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. Between the confusing prices and the hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming sometimes, but that's why I love to use CarGurus. They help you cut out the noise and only show you the best deals with full confidence. They have over 4 million listings, and CarGurus has more new and used cars than any major online marketplace in the United States. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data that you need to make the right choices without second-guessing yourself at all. If you need a deal that you can actually trust, CarGurus makes it easy to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal ratings. And the best feature of CarGurus might actually be the price drop alerts. You know exactly what you are going to be getting with the perfect car and when it's available for your budget. Plus the in-depth vehicle details, give you peace of mind before stepping onto any car lot. It's no wonder that SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows that CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. And you can buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. That is CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. One more time, CarGurus, CarGurus.com. One more time here, it's CarGurus.com. Do you want to do 5 minutes max on Ace Bailey? Because I've talked about him like literally zero on the show.
I mean, if we want to like engagement farm, we can, yeah.
Well, and not even about that. It's just like, it's topical, kind of.
Sure.
And the Hawks have been kind of linked to some trade-up stuff. Now, most of it's been for centers, in theory. Maluach is probably the most likely target they trade up, from what I can hear. But even then, there's some uncertainty there. But look, there's been the hypothetical, like, okay, if the Hawks have a guy that they love that might slip to 6 or 7, maybe 8, like they have the firepower to go get that guy. At no point have I thought about Ace Bailey, to be honest with you. But now there's like some mixed, let's say, intel on Ace Bailey, and maybe he could fall a little bit. So, and I've done literally zero on Ace Bailey. What do you think of Ace Bailey in the experience generally?
Who knows if he's actually going to fall? I mean,
yeah, no idea.
The reports coming out about him not working out with any team are certainly odd. And I'm not really I feel like the teams like Philly, who I think would be the best fits for him, or even like Utah makes more sense. He doesn't seem interested in going there.
He does
but,
not.
I'm not as high on Ace Bailey as maybe mainstream consensus. I think like he's the classic guy who like you won't find many on, quote unquote draft Twitter who are that high on him. And he's like a top 3 guy in the eyes of like mainstream consensus. But I think he's solid. I think he's a solid like mid-late lottery guy. And I mean, he'd be probably good on the Hawks. I don't know if they really need him or he would be the most important piece to add with of the guys available there. But like, I don't know. He'd get a bunch of easy shots playing next to Trey. I think he's going to be good on defense. He's going to add just like another rim protector and another versatile on-ball defender. Like he'd be good. Like I would like him in a spot like Atlanta where they would not rely on him to create shots all the time. Like they have Trey, Jalen Johnson's hopefully going to be healthy. We saw like Onyeka could take a little step at the end of last year. Like Dyson's obviously going to get his chances. It's like if they draft Ace, they're not going to need him to jack shots. And like they can experiment with bench units with Ace as like a more primary handler, but they don't have to commit to that. And I think those situations are going to be the best ones for Ace based on my conception of him, at his ceiling, which is like this kind of turbo, like, shot making and defense wing who, has the ability to just like really elevate offensive ceilings with his shooting and then provide value on defense, which is like a really damn good player. And people are like, oh, it's slanderous. It's like, no, it really isn't.
I have him a little lower than consensus too. I think probably around where you have him, like as a mid-lottery guy. And again, I just haven't thought to think about him for the Hawks that much. I've written about it for other things, but not for the Hawks. I think he actually would be a pretty interesting fit in Atlanta because of what you just said. Like he doesn't.
Yeah, it would be good.
Maybe playing with Trey would like kind of unlock him a little bit, and he would maybe take less of the bad shots and all those things. I also, it's maybe a bridge to ask you this question. I was going to ask at some point about just trade up in general. As the Hawks, I'm asking everyone this question because it's been one I get all the time. Like constantly, I'm asked, should they trade up from 13? It's hard to say, of course, without the specifics of who they're going to go get. But would you be generally in favor, if you're the Hawks, would you be calling try to trade up like before the draft or during is there a guy you would like? Is like, or are you more of like a just take two swings and go?
Based on my evaluation of the class, I have no problem staying at 13. And even like you kind of alluded to, I'm so like draft pick pilled. It's like if you can get it, if you can trade up for like only swaps or just like some like that makes more sense to me. But like I just rather have the extra swings at prospects, and there's not going to be anyone, at least for me, because like I said, Queen might be there. If Murray-Boyles is there, that's a guy who I don't think you have to trade up for, who I would be happy with if the Hawks picked him at 6 or whatever. I think Maluach is the only guy that would really make sense to me if they're just like really dead. He's like the one traditional center. I mean, like Sorber's really good, but consensus doesn't seem to like him as much. He's like the one true center that, if they feel like they have to lap Toronto or whoever, I don't know, to get him, like they trade up to 8, maybe they can get it with like a swap or a second or something like that. It's not, it wouldn't be my favorite decision, but I would understand it if it's like, you feel like the prospect's like a whole tier above anybody else. And for them, especially factoring in team fit, a guy like Maluach could be, but I still probably wouldn't. Again, or like I wouldn't like trade up for Ace Bailey because I don't view him as like a blue chip prospect. I think he's falling to the range where I have him projected.
Right.
I might consider trading up for Khan though. Ooh.
Well, I love Collin too, and I don't think you can maybe get high enough. I think Collins going to go pretty high. I mean, that's the thing with the Hawks, without going down this rabbit hole too much, is like to get into where you have to go for a lot of these guys. Even Maluach, there's a scenario where you might have to go to like 5, and like that's a long way from 13. Like you got to give up a lot to go from 13 to 5. That gets underrated. It's like probably 2 future assets or something crazy. It's a lot of stuff. On the Maluach thing, while we're here. How do you evaluate as a prospect? Separate from anything else, like Atlanta has needs probably a little bit too strong, but like potential to look for a 7-foot traditional center. I know where you have. I'm looking at your board right now, so I know where you have him. But what do you like and not like about Maluach as a guy?
6'7", I think.
Because he's like the one. Honestly, again, he's the only, as we're talking. It's not like Shams, but it's like the people that are like know some stuff are like talking about Maluach as the Hawks' potential trade. So he's the one guy they've been linked to as a trade-up candidate.
I mean, it makes just even beyond like the leagues. I just think it's the Hawks, maybe more than like any team in the history of basketball, are like, we need a rim running center who can defend the basket. Like that's legitimately it's since because like Luka's always had that. And Maluach is the best bet. I don't want to limit him to that though. Like I think he could be better than that. And his touch is really absurd. Like he's obviously going to be a great like lob finisher because he has a 7'7" wingspan and like a 9'6" or whatever standing reach. Like he's going to be able to catch lobs like crazy. But his touch this year was so good on hook shots, on layups. he shot 84% at the rim in the half court. That is ridiculously high. Second place in this class was Ryan Kalkbrenner at 76.4%, so almost 10%. He is like, his ability to like tap in lobs from like weird angles softly is so crazy, and like his hands aren't always consistent, but I think that kind of gives him an avenue to be a little more valuable than your average is like rim runner, glass crasher, screener. Like I don't project any shooting or playmaking or handling from him really, at least not realistically. And defensively, like he's also kind of a weird one because I think he honestly kind of like in a weird way, I think positionally is similar to like a Alex Sarr or even like a Jaren Jackson coming out where they're mostly roamers. Like they're not like super versatile pick and roll. They don't like, they're too mobile to just park at the rim. Like Maluach, when he can like roam on the weak side and just disrupt stuff with his length and deter shots at the rim, is a monster. And I think he actually has a good amount of pick and roll defense upside because he is just active. He can get low. His feet are fine, but not great for his size. But like he's not going to be able to switch under the perimeter. My biggest issue is Maluach beyond his like processing and feel on defense, which aren't perfect. I think they got better as the season went on. Are one, the physicality, which everybody seems to talk about. I think that's real. Like it's definitely something to think about and something that needs to improve. It can, but then I think the more concerning thing are like his short area quickness and just like quickness in general, where like he can make like big long rotations, like from the corner down to the paint, or like from one block to like, you know, the other side of the floor. But he's not good at like changing directions in short spaces. He doesn't get up off the floor super quickly, which is why he's just like a good, not great shot blocker to me. But he does just have like a different level of movement than most 7'1", 7'2" guys. Like he's not Gobert necessarily as a mover, but I think he's like the next tier down, whatever that is in terms of movement skill upside. And yeah, I mean for Atlanta, like this is a dream Trae Young big. Like Trae, I'm sure Trae is pounding the table for this one. Like I would
Yeah.
be if I was him as well. He's gonna just, I mean, like he definitely benefit. I think maybe you can make a fair case that like his finishing numbers benefited from having two of the best passers in the draft on his team, often playing together. And especially Khan with like his lob pass accuracy and timing was perfect. But like, that's not a concern if he goes to Atlanta. You're playing with Trae Young. Like,
yeah, no, it's right. And also he's super young. Like you already said it exactly the way I think about it too. Like I'm not big into trading up. He's the guy that if it makes the most sense on of anybody that's realistic to go and get if you're the Hawks. It just because of the position and again, I'm not. People are probably laughing, listening. I'm not the like they have to go get a 7. I'm not that. Like I think Okongwu's pretty good, honestly, and it's overblown that he's small. I get all that, but I get it. I get the idea of Maluach. Yeah. Also,
they can definitely take a big guy or acquire a center somewhere, but it's not so urgent that you have to trade up into the top 10 for it. In my opinion,
agreed. They have to get a center somewhere. Everyone's in agreement there. Even if it's just to back up Okongwu, they need somebody else. But Maluach is a very interesting player. Today's show is brought to you by WayFair. There's nothing like stepping into the outdoor space that you have and feeling like it's actually your own personal oasis. If you want to update that patio set this season, WayFair has made it so easy to go ahead and do that, turn the space into something that feels like your own, comfortable, stylish, and ready for the summer. At WayFair, they have everything you need to level up your outdoor space in general. That includes conversation sets, outdoor bars, fire pits, hot tubs, gazebos, any of the perfect string lights to actually vibe up the backyard the way that you want it to be. It's like giving your backyard a reset actually with that resort feel without any of the resort price tags to go along with it. And if you have a budget like I always work within, you can actually filter out and find exactly what you need with WayFair. It's also the case you actually don't want a massive space as well. You want to work in a smaller area. So all that is available to you at WayFair. And delivery is always free, fast, and totally hassle-free at WayFair, even for the larger items. That's been huge for me in the past, and it would be for you as well. And now, whether it's an event that I'm actually hosting people or just unwinding on my own in a small group or by myself, it generally feels like a personal and private retreat for me. Don't wait. Make your outdoor space your dream oasis right now today with WayFair and enjoy it all summer long. Head to wayfair.com right now. Shop a huge outdoor selection. That is WayFair, wayfair.com. That's wayfair.com. WayFair, every style, every home. The other guy we already talked about a little bit, but not like as a player, is Collin Murray-Boyles. So let's just do that real fast. Collin Murray-Boyles is, I think, polarizing is fair. Like I love it. I really like him.
Extremely polarizing.
I really like him. People that like him really like him. I'm one of those people, but also he's not super traditional. He can't really shoot right now. Offensively kind of limited. He isn't like the tallest guy in the world. Like if you love him, you love him. If you don't, it's like, what does this guy do again? Where do you fall? I think you like him, but what do you like about him, and what are you
I'm
worried
definitely pro. I'm not as pro as some people who have him like top 3. I can
That's too
like
high.
kind of understand the vision, but I mean, I have him like 6 to 8 range, I think, like just outside of one of my like second or third tier. He just had a bunch of really high level traits that I think are worth betting on, where like his game obviously just like doesn't make sense positionally, and that's why people don't like him. Like he's a 6'6", 4.5, 5 who doesn't shoot threes. Like that's, certainly concerning.
Yep.
I don't doubt that. And the shooting indicators aren't like promising by any means. Like he's never been a good free throw shooter. He's never taken threes. He took, barely any threes this year. He took 30 threes in high school, in the Cerebro sample, and 39 in college. Like it's just not particularly like he wasn't a high frequency mid-range guy either. But Murray-Boyles is just like a crazy good passer. His finishing is awesome. He's a good driver. I wish he was like a little more explosive. I think if he was a little more explosive, like that to me, it's where like the Randall-ish comps kind of fall through a little bit. Because Randall, I mean, still is, especially when he was a teenager, was like stupidly explosive. Like he wasn't Zion, but he was insane. And Murray-Boyles, like, he doesn't dunk that much. He's not so crazy twitchy, but he has like the crazy strength creation. His touch is awesome. His driving definitely got better as his college career went on. And then I think he has a strong case as the best defensive player in the draft. Like he's not a center in terms of rim protection, and that's literally my only major defensive issue with him. And it's notable, but his instincts and reaction time and hands and mobility and strength and awareness, like he carried a terrible South Carolina team on both ends this year. And I don't think that should be underappreciated. Like he is a incredibly smart passer who I think fits extremely well with the Hawks, honestly. I think he's like he's kind of like, I think he's going to be the player who like I wanted Grant Williams to be. Like I don't know if you like, again, just like this short roll demon who is like creating, punishing rotations, scoring super high volume and efficiency on the interior. And I'm like, I think Murray-Boyles is the guy who I like thought Grant Williams was when I was 18.
Yeah, I mean he's
a good player, by the way.
Yeah,
like
he's a really good athlete
Millsap-y ish.
Yep. That's, I mean, I pulled that out too as of course it's because it's the Hawks comparison, but also that there's a lot of Millsap there, and
I've made that comparison before.
And Millsap also was like, people kind of forget this in Atlanta in particular. Before he got to Atlanta, was like not a big offensive threat. Like he didn't
shoot in college. I mean, It was obviously 2005 or whatever.
Well, he didn't shoot in the pros in Utah. He wasn't shooting in Utah. Like it's just he kind of came around late, so you can't bank on that. But I love the defense. I mean, obviously that's the selling point with Murray-Boyles, and probably why, at least part of why I like him more than a lot of people do. Like I just value his defense a lot, and he isn't necessarily a clean fit a lot of places because of the offensive weirdness.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad. It's just that it's not like a plug and play. You have to think about it.
I will say it wasn't until his 8th NBA season, his first in Atlanta, that Millsap took over 1 3 per 75 possessions. Like it took him 8 NBA seasons to become an even like a guy, and even then it was like below average volume his whole career, right?
Yep.
Mostly open spot up shooting, but that's all you need from a guy like Murray-Boyles to be a really damn effective player. I think that would totally change the calculus for him, and I just have a hard time seeing it happening. Like he could definitely get to the point where he like can hit a spot up or two, but I just struggle because like I wish he had more of a pull up mid range game, because then it would be easier to project him as a pull-up shooter, like another like Randall similarity there, or non-similarity, I guess. But it's just tough with him. I definitely struggle with him. He's not like an easy eval by any means to me, and I don't feel like incredible about wherever I have him. Like I feel like he's a guy I've like tested out everywhere. It's like I have him late in the later lottery. I'm like, no, he's too good. I'm like, I have him in my top 5. It's like, no, I just can't like justify that. But
right, and for me, it's
he's fascinating.
Put it back in Hawks terms, like at 13, if he's the pick, like I'm very excited about that. Like I know that not everybody will agree with me on that. Again, because like maybe he's duplicative of Jalen some. Like I get it. Like there's some stuff there, but I love the defense. The frame, like I know he's kind of short, but he has a 7'1" wingspan. Like he's got enough size.
Yeah, he's super long for sure.
So I mean, I refuse to ever do Draymond comps, but defensively, you can kind of see it.
There's and Murray-Boyles, just one last thing, because I can't get this out of my head. He took I think he took around 120 non-rim twos in 2 seasons. Julius Randle took 160 in his 1 season.
In 1 season, yeah.
I'm like, I wish Murray-Boyles had that. If he did, I would be stupidly high on him.
Well, and look, Randle, yeah. I mean, you know this. I mean, I know you were young when it was happening, but Randle was like a top 5 prospect the whole way in that class. Like it was coming out of high school. Murray-Boyles was not that. Like Randle had the pedigree that Murray-Boyles does not have. I think Murray-Boyles defensively is better than Randle's ever been, probably. But offensively,
he had his moments this year. But
yeah. he was fine. But
Murray-Boyles, I mean, he's a defense first prospect that you draft and you're like, we'll figure out the offense because this guy, like, right. I love him for like a Utah or just like these awful defensive teams that just need a backbone. And Murray-Boyles can do everything. He's going to make plays on defense. He's going to create turnovers. He can guard a bunch of positions. He can defend screens. I think there are a lot of really high level defensive players in this class. I think it's like, to me, it's like pick your flavor between Cooper and Murray-Boyles as the best defender in the class.
Which is high praise.
I probably think it's Cooper, but like, I don't feel like so convicted in that.
All right, that is all for part 1 of myself and Ben Pfeifer talking about the NBA draft through the lens of the Hawks. Part 2 should be available in this same podcast feed, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Overcast, YouTube. It should be there right now. So go to part 2 immediately following this. Please subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends about the show. Stay tuned. Go to part 2, and we'll see everybody next time.